West Africa, 27 civilians killed in August riots in Sierra Leone have been buried in the capital Freetown following a state-led ceremony. Family members have been disputing police reports and demanding justice. News Central's Bernard Akede has more.
27 coffins carrying the remains of civilians killed in the August 10 protest in Sierra Leone. One after the other, the coffins were lowered into individual graves at the Bolima Cemetery in the Waterloo district of Freetown, following a state-led ceremony at the Connaught Hospital Memorial. Friends and family members shed bitter tears as some contested the official account of the deaths of their loved ones. One of the victims, Hassan Doumbouya, was a social media influencer and prominent member of the opposition party, All Progressives Congress.
All the family members approved. We were there at the meeting and we disapproved. We rejected the 20 million.
On August 10, a protest about the cost of living spiraled into deadly clashes between security forces and young men calling for President Julius Bio to resign. Violence erupted in several parts of the West African nation, with the authorities imposing an internet blackout in response. In the days following, police said they conducted raids on hideouts for perpetrators.
I feel so disheartened, depressed, very unhappy. I'm not happy at all with the decision of the government to then take for keep picking them up to now for 2 months and some days. And now that they cancel me to go back, I don't feel happy about that. It caused a lot of trauma. It caused a lot. It make the family just shattered. Everybody now feel happy at all.
During one of those raids in the city of Makeni, Doumbouya, also known as Evangelist Samson, was killed in a crossfire. This was according to police statements. His family disputes this statement, saying he was shot from behind, according to autopsy reports they received. As the tears flow, many Sierra Leoneans continue to call for justice, though they say they have lost faith in the system. Bernard Akede, reporting for...
And just to add a little bit to that story, the Sierra Leonean government, of course, has been, accused of bullying the people who came out on the riots. Those 27 bodies, according to reports, were not released to their families. They were instead, given a state burial. The families were offered 20 million leon, which is about $1,200, as compensation, which they rejected, and that includes Hassan Doumbouya's family, who of course have continued to call for proper investigation into his death. Policemen who also lost their lives in the protest, about 8 of them, were offered about 100 million leon, or their families rather were offered about 100 million leon as compensation for their deaths. And of course, people have linked and likened this rather to the NSAS protest here in Nigeria in October 2020, and how that eventually resulted. With bodies not being returned to their families, according to reports.
I mean, it's bad enough that they lose their lives, but not only are they not being able to be buried by their families are not given enough time to grieve. According to reports, only 3 family members per family were allowed to visit the morgue in Freetown, where a bus would then convey them to the undisclosed burial site. It's just a trauma on many levels, right? It's a bad way to die. I mean, there are some good ways to die, really, but it's really a painful way to die, and then there's no closure for the family members. Then what next? What next with the government? What next is the government going to do? Are these lives going to be lost in vain? I think these are the questions that we must ask.
We will, of course, heart to go to these persons. And
yes,
we will,
absolutely.
Definitely, love to have more of these conversations as time passes.
My condolences to the families of those who have died in this unfortunate incident. It is calm and quiet now. It's been like this since yesterday evening. The security forces are fully deployed to make sure that there is no further deterioration in the situation. There are arrangements in place now to make sure that we improve on that situation. It is calm and quiet as I speak.
What are they saying, the security experts and the ministers in charge of the situation, about the underlying and overt causes of the violence?
Well, it could be political. And I think that is the thought at the moment. They have been putting pressure to come out and protest. Of course, what happened yesterday was definitely not a protest. It was terrorism at the highest. We have a few Sierra Leoneans who live in the diaspora who have threatened to unleash terror on Sierra Leone on several occasions. They will incite unemployed youth on this part in the country. And on several occasions, we've had these episodic eruptions of violence. The other time it was in Lonsa, another town, and another time it was in Makeni, Tombo, and we've lost lives in most of these instances.
You say unemployed youth, which actually is an indication, isn't it, that people actually do have genuine reasons for anger, for feeling that they're not being heard and that their lives are becoming more and more difficult. So pointing to agitators seems to be denying that reality of Sierra Leonean youth and Sierra Leonean people in general.
Definitely. There's hardship. We have unemployment. But most of the youth are unemployed. We do sympathize with their situation. And as a government, we have done quite a lot to address that situation.
But that is a very long-term strategic vision. The education of young people is a long-term strategic vision to turn things around. But right now, there's a massive cost of living crisis. And I grant you, of course, that's global in scope. But the joblessness, the youth unemployment, the overhang of COVID, all those are issues that...
Government reaffirms its commitment to maintain law and order, including protecting the fundamental rights of the general public. The security sector has been authorized to fully enforce these directives.
Town's main market. On Wednesday, the country was rocked by the worst violence since the end of its 11-year civil war. In response, the government announced a reduction in the price of petrol, the third in less than a month. But for shoppers like Maria Majalo, fuel wasn't the only issue, and the demonstrations did nothing to bring down the cost of food.
Just now I want to buy pepper. The woman said it's 10,000, so I couldn't buy it because I left the pepper like 3 days ago, 8,000, and today it's 10,000. So I don't know what the problem.
People here say the prices, especially of food, are far higher than most people can afford. Just 6 months ago, this cup of rice was 21 cents. Now it's 50% more. Both traders and buyers lose as a result,
making it harder for small traders like Awana too.
I've been sitting here since morning. No one came to buy. That means there is no money for me and the orphans in my care.
The government says it's working to stabilize prices.
Government has set up an essential goods and services committee headed by the chief minister, whose basic responsibility is to monitor availability and the prices of various essential commodities that constitute the food basket.
But food inflation isn't the only problem people have to contend with. Transport and rent have also gone up. With inflation exceeding 25%, Sierra Leoneans may have to brace themselves for more price increases. It's not clear if the government's latest measures will be enough to prevent a repeat of this week's violent protests.
punished. There will also be a full investigation into the death of ordinary citizens who lost their lives in this senseless violence incited by those unknown persons.
With the cost of living in Sierra Leone that's risen by more than 40% within the last few months, could the government have avoided the conflict? And is there a way to peacefully end the crisis before a general election next year? The president of Sierra Leone, Julius Maada Bio, talks to Al Jazeera. President Julius Maada Bio, why do you think people have come out onto the streets? What seems to be, or what are the issues that are worrying them and making them so angry?
Ours was not a cost of living protest. It was a politically motivated protest or demonstration that has been politically motivated. And as you can see from their chants, they would never even spoke about any cost of the cost of essential commodities, because we have made that available at the cost, and we are making every attempt to ease the burden on society.
Your detractors would perhaps not agree with what you've just said there. We've spoken in our news reports to people, members of the public on the ground, about their concerns about the economy, the rising cost of living. But if I also just add here that 60% of your community are living in poverty, their cost of living is rising or has risen by 40% in the last few months. How can you justify that this crisis is politically motivated and that their anger is politically motivated when your country, like many others across the continent and the globe, are experiencing this very unique set of economic factors that are making the public angry at large?
Of course, there is hardship in Sierra Leone, but we have done quite a lot to address that hardship. Is it only in Sierra Leone? No.
Evidence of civil strife, as we've said over the last few days and weeks, certainly in August, over food insecurity and the rising cost of living. Your vice president described the fermenting anger as being initiated by, and I quote, unscrupulous individuals. Do you want to actually, on record, talk about who are you actually focusing on? Who are these unscrupulous individuals?
Well, I think what he was specifically referring to are a group of Sierra Leoneans, most of whom live in the diaspora, who are known to have been inciting violence in this country. And they have their collaborators and supporters who are also politicians. Some of them are well placed in society.
Look at him firing. Look right at the crowd.
APC opposition headquarters riddled with bullets, its floors stained with blood. Hours after the attack, visibly shaken APC members still didn't know what hit them.
Just here on a press conference, and then the next thing we knew, we started hearing firing, and our whole office is surrounded by police and army.
Pictures posted by Freetown's opposition mayor showed a dozen people lying on the ground to protect themselves from incoming bullets.
It was like a horror movie, you know. It was like a doomsday, I'll put it, almost like everybody think that would be the end of it.
Security forces said Sunday they attempted to disperse a crowd of APC supporters who were falsely claiming their candidate Samura Kamara had won the election. But while they claimed to have only fired tear gas, bullet holes still etched into the APC headquarters seemed to tell another story. Sunday's violence marred an otherwise relatively peaceful election in Sierra Leone, with the head of the Electoral Commission hailing it as one of the calmest in recent history.
If not the best, but it's one of the best.
Opposition headquarters riddled with bullets, its floors stained with blood. Hours after the attack, visibly shaken APC members still didn't know what hit them.
Just here on a press conference, and then the next thing we knew, we started hearing firing, and our whole office is surrounded by police and army.
Pictures posted by Freetown's opposition mayor showed a dozen people lying on the ground to protect themselves from incoming bullets.
It was like a horror movie. You know, it was like a doomsday, I'll put it. Almost like everybody think that would be the end of it.
Security forces said Sunday they attempted to disperse a crowd of APC supporters who were falsely claiming their candidate Samura.
As we see, we did live. This is the APC party office, and then right inside the office of the flag bearer and leader, Samura Kamara, as policemen them come, as well as the man them come, open an attack at the party office where he be called an emergency press conference for address the supporters them and all. As you see, in Umbis, we get here. Mr. Lasana Fadikadia, Amaki there, and we get big stakeholders around. Excuse me, huh? We get the as you see, is the whole party office, everybody is down. We lead our things here, all party structure there, even the mayor is here, and the fire service constantly for over hours now. With guns and live bullets. As you can see, the whole party of the line are done shattered, and Asiliki. This is very much terrible.
With AK-47s, flashball cannons, and even sniper rifles, heavily armed security forces cracked down on an opposition rally in Freetown. Days before heading to the polls, dozens of protesters had been calling for the head of Sierra Leone's Electoral Commission to step down.
We are here to protest because we want a credible elections. All we are asking for, we don't have problem with the government of the day. We just want a credible elections.
Last week, opposition leader Samura Kamara questioned the impartiality of the commission and called for it to be replaced by an independent international body ahead of Saturday's vote. But the accusations were rejected by the head of the commission and by Sierra Leone's President Julius Maada Bio, who's running for a second term. On Tuesday, he called for a peaceful vote and said he wouldn't tolerate any form of violence.
I want to appeal to everybody.
Give me your fucking phone. Go inside. Put him down there.
Look, I've been here since this morning. You're the only person that coming at I'm not. From this morning, I come up to talk to them. Give me the phone. I want to talk to them. Let's do that, son.
You're under arrest. No, you're under arrest. You are under arrest. No. Let's go. No. I'm not for slapping at this woman. What's that? No, you just swear. Okay, no. Small. I just left news for country. Police. Yes.